So what's next? Next is getting it to be possessable. So, oh, I should have deleted that. So the puppet heart group thing doesn't actually come with a microchip, so you can't actually. Let's just turn that one off so that we don't try and possess it. So I can't use R2 to possess this puppet. Now the way possession actually works isn't to do with puppets, it's to do with a controller sensor. So if I just put a random sculpt down and then get a controller sensor and stamp it to it like that, then I don't need those, then it will be possessable because the possession mode is on possessable. So now if I go into play mode, the camera kind of stays around it and I can press R2 to possess it and nothing happens. But the actual controller sensors, the object the controller sensor is attached to is where it will what can be possessed. So if I possess that, like that, because I put on the body visible on target, and so normally it's on hidden. Let's say we want, for some weird reason, we want to make it like the imp to zoom in to a particular spot. So let's say it's there. Now if we look at this side and I go R2 to possess, it goes into the top, which isn't very useful. We want it to go into the side. So while this controller sensor is tweaked, or if you press X on it to select it, then this appears. This little gizmo is like the representation of the imp. So the imp will zoom in to this point wherever you put it, and at that angle and stuff. So if I go R2 now, it's going to that spot. And if I go from over here, still goes to that spot. Let's just want to check something. If I turn that round, yeah. So I don't know if you saw that, but it kind of zoomed around like that instead of straight in from this side. Kind of went out to the front and in. So that's because the front of the imp, if I actually turn on that, so the front, which is the Z axis, the front direction of this gizmo is where it will go into. So that might be useful for, like, so when I make a puppet, let's just make a new blank puppet. When I make a character, or most likely remix it, I tend to get that and then put the grid on and then press L1 and triangle on the chest so that the grid is aligned with it. Then adjust this a bit so I can get a nice like center point like that of the chest. You can adjust the what's it called, that grid size or something, finer and coarser, with L1 and up or down. So up makes it bigger gaps, down makes it smaller gaps. So I think that spot right there will be perfect. So then I grab this and rotate it forwards with L2. Yep, so now it's facing forward, and move it up. I'll just make it smaller so I can see. And put it on that spot in the chest. Make sure it's actually in the chest. Yeah, that'll do. And then when I play, then watch what the imp does. If I go from the side, it seems to go into the chest. So it could be pretty nice if you had like a robot and there was a gap in the or say like some empty armor or something like that that you zoom into and control. There's like a crack in the armor, and then you put the imp gizmo target thing into that crack in the armor, and then it looks like the imp is zooming into the armor, and it could look pretty neat. Okay, so we don't need that. So let's get it working on here now. So first we need a microchip. So actually we'll do it just with the controller sensor, just to show. So for this you want the controller sensor to be on the group, not on a let's just stick it anywhere. Okay, so not on one of these pieces, because then it'll only possess that piece. We want to go out again and put it on the whole group. This isn't what you want to do, but for demonstration purposes, the whole group will be able to be possessed. So if you look at when it says possess, it's any part of the body. Yeah, so let's scope out, stick that on there, and now we can possess it. But there's no controls. I'm moving sticks around and trying to jump and stuff. It doesn't do anything. Because we need to actually create logic for that. So the best way to do that is to have a chip. Normally a puppet comes with a chip, but we're kind of rebuilding the puppet, like Frankenstein's monster. And again, I'm going to use L1 and triangle to get kind of a nice center point to this, and then we will move the microchip around on that grid, and we'll rotate it down like that. Now we could, let's just turn the grid off for a sec. We could so there's a couple of special things about a microchip. Let's just look at those first. Let's stick on a regular mover. So this won't do anything because it's not been told what to move. Turn that up. It has affected objects, so if I rewire that into the group, then it's moving it around. Let's just turn that around. No. Turn that around. Oh, they added that. I don't think before you could set where this position was. Cool. So it's like shoving that object it's affecting in that direction. Alternatively, you can tweak the chip that it's in and apply to object, and now everything in that chip will automatically apply to the object that the chip is affecting, so that will still work. Alternatively, you can let's remove that. You can use L1 to snap it to something, and then that implicitly kind of gives you a wire like that, but it doesn't show it. So so just show it's working. So it's kind of working weirdly, but it's working. Oh, because it's... No, I don't know why that's working funny. But then if you drag it out, you can see that wire that was hidden. So I snap it on again, it hides it. Take it away, and it's got that wire connected. So, strangely enough, the controller sensor works the same way, but there is no dedicated affected object type wire to it. So if you stamp it on it, then it works okay. But if you take it away, there is no wire that lingers. So if you want this to work with logic and stuff, then you'll probably want to put it in a microchip and have that microchip connected with this apply to object like that. So let's do that. Let's grab that and use L1 and X to scope it in, and then we'll put it at its feet using the grid again. So shoot back like that. Press triangle to make sure it's on a grid point. Beware when you do that though, because sometimes it scales things and makes them funny sizes that you may not intend. Cool. So now what do we have? We have this controller sensor. Press triangle on this gizmo to reset it. This controller sensor is implicitly affecting this whole group because that's what the microchip is doing. So then we can possess that whole thing. And now we can actually do some stuff. Okay, so now I'll turn the grid off and do some stuff in here. So the most obvious thing we want to do is to be able to walk around. So let's do that. For that we need a special gadget called a puppet interface. A puppet interface is you can send it signals, like tell it to jump, or tell it a direction to walk, or tell it to lean, and you can and you're kind of talking to the puppet that this gadget is in. So remember, this chip is within here. This chip is affecting that. So this puppet interface is also talking to that and getting signals from that. Okay, so let's get this walking. Let's get the left stick. First, I'll show you the left stick local so we can see the difference. So we just plug that into walk and see what happens. Okay, so it's kind of working. It's a bit weird. I'll get my special controller displayer so that you can see what's going on. Okay, so this is the controller displayer in the corner. So I'm using the left stick and pushing up, but it's going like off to the side and stuff, and it's like, what's going on? That's because we are using left stick local, which means we get, if we pin that screen, I'll show you what it does. Get these so we can plug it in and see what's happening. And for testing, we'll just put it on to remote controllable, which means you don't have to possess anything, it just kind of works. So as you can see, if I push, if I play time, you can see it down there. If I push left, it's -1 on X. If I push right, it's +1 on X. If I push up, it's -1 on X. If I push down, it's 1 on Y. I misspoke a second ago. So that's what you're getting, the raw data from the stick. Now if I plug that same thing into left stick, it will get confusing. So if I go like that, I'm pressing right and it's giving me some funny number and it's just unintelligible. What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. What's going on is, so left stick means forwards is always away from the camera. So this whole I think the puppet ran off. Because it's on remote control, yeah. So yeah, that's the difference between those two outputs. Left stick is relative to the camera, and left stick local is not. So we actually want this to always be, when we push up on the left stick, it will go forwards away from the camera. So we'll use left stick instead of left stick local. And now, oh yeah, it's on remote control now. So we'll go onto possessable and possess it. And now I'm looking over there, so pushing up and it goes in forwards. If I'm looking over here, I push up and it goes forwards. So this is a really nice like abstraction that they've built into the controller sensor, because most of the time this is the kind of thing that you want. If you had like if we use the other mode, use the local, there are times when this might be useful. So if we had a camera set up like that, this may go in the wrong direction, but oh, that's right. So now if you push left, it's always going left universally and up and down. So because we're looking at it with 3D perspective, if I push down, it actually kind of goes to the left a bit on the screen, but it's just purely in one direction within the world. So if you had like, I don't know, some sort of chess game or a puzzle game where you can only move left, right, up or down, then that might be quite useful. Cool. But we'll just have it working as normal. So we'll grab that and put it into... Oh, grabbing the wrong thing. Don't need that anymore. And we'll wire in left stick into the walk, and that'll be fine. Now we want to implement jump, and this has a handy dandy jump input, so we just wire the X into it, and now jump works. Yay! And if we tweak the puppet and give it some double jump height, that'll be a bit extreme, I think. Then the double jump works as well, because it just uses that one input. Cool, so that's that. What else have we got? Yeah, what are we looking at next? Let's do the running pose. So something else this puppet interface does, which is pretty interesting, is if you wire up something like running strength, then the puppet is really smart about this particular link. So remember we talked about when it's running time and stuff, you have the quick edit down there. Before, when this wasn't connected, if you click that, it would just be on that and nothing would be recorded or whatever. But because we have connected running strength to a keyframe, then if you click on that, then it's going to start recording with that keyframe, which is a really nice shortcut. So now we can rotate things. Let's have it proper. And I'm using L2 to grab the object, and then tilting my controller like you can't really see it like that. I'm just tilting the controller, and that lets me kind of do a one-to-one rotation on it. So now if we preview, then it's doing that. And yeah, So on the regular puppet, it's a bit less insane. Oh, it's not. Oh, because it's turned off, is it? So we click on that, we preview what's stored in it. So it's only like a little subtle thing. But for testing purposes, arm flail. So that's a nice shortcut. If you have multiple keyframes attached to this, I believe it's the last one that you made or something when you try tweaking it, then it's the last one that was created, not the last one that was attached, the last keyframe that's created for whatever reason. Cool.